All right, welcome in and a very happy Wednesday to you. There's now game time decisions on the SportsGrid network, and I got a lot of afternoon baseball underway here. We had a couple of double headers. We got one final full slate of WNBA action before the All-Star break there. Game coming up on Saturday, and of course, we got the SEC Media Days, college football, NFL talk, and the never-ending where will LeBron James land? It's Joe Raineri. It is Craig Mish. We appreciate you stopping by with us here as we try to get you updated for and get you ready for what's about to happen here, Craig, in Major League Baseball tonight. Still got a really good slate of action coming up, but we already saw a couple of finals here, and let's start with those two games that we watched get postponed yesterday. That game ones have already taken place. Yankees lose and waste a good effort by Garrett Cole there in extra innings, 5-3. So they lose game one of that set. I guess good news, Craig, is game two. We're going to see an old face. Max Fried is taking the mound for the Yankees, which is got to be good news. I don't know if Max Fried can actually hit again. Maybe that would be great. But he is back on the mound for the Yankees tonight in that second game coming up.
Good to be with you once again, Joe. We do have a lot of afternoon action and a great slate tonight. Most of the games happening tomorrow afternoon, and we will be here, you and I believe, once again doing the show during the afternoon games. And look, the Pirates right now, Joe, are playing really good baseball. In fact, if you look at the standings, they are the third wild card as it stands in the National League. And so naturally, their fans are getting excited. They're thinking that in a couple of weeks, the Pirates are going to push the foot down. This is their best opportunity to do it. I mean, really, when you think about it, they picked up some nice players in the offseason. Jake Mangum has been leading off, doing a good job for them. Nick Gonzalez, Ryan O'Hearn. These are not household names. This is not like the old, Pirates of the past. Lau has done a great job for them as well. So really good job by their front office and their pitching. They're going to have to get better, I would think, that if they're going to make a real push for the wild card. But they're in a position to do so. But let's really not bury the lead here 3 minutes into the show. 15 games in a row for the Boston Red Sox. Wow, they beat the Orioles 6-3, and the beat just rolls on here, Joe. So now I'm a little afraid, and I got to ask you, Joe, I'm a little afraid here because as we were on the show yesterday, I said that whatever you do, you got to just take the opposite side in the doubleheader. But I'm got to tell you, I'm a little scared. The Red Sox jumped out so quick on Baltimore. First inning, I believe they posted 4 or 5 runs and then just cruised the rest of the way, and Chapman got the save. Are you willing to get in the way of a 15-game winning streak from the Red Sox and take the Orioles in game 2? Generally, this is a blind bet, right? Like, you just take the opposite side for the second game, but I don't know. Boston's playing the best baseball of anybody in the game the entire season right now.
Let's just go on record, first things first here, Craig. As a diehard Yankee fan, the idea that I would ever lead with a Red Sox story is just blasphemous, and you understand that. That's even if I have to rip the Yankees in the opening, I will do that before I ever congratulate the Red Sox tying a franchise record with 15 games and winning streak. In fact, I think Carl Yastrzemski was 6 years old the last time they won this many games in a row. You got to go back to, Ted Williams days, guys, to find anything even close to this. Listen, you don't ever want to catch a falling knife, we say, right? And that goes for teams that are heading the wrong way. I don't know, a team like the Marlins comes into mind. But what you also don't want to do is, of course, step in front of a train like the Red Sox right now, who are getting it. And listen, Baltimore over the last couple of weeks, #1 against left-handed pitching in Major League Baseball. And what did they get today? They got a left-hander in the rookie Bennett. Did it matter? Absolutely not. The kid was phenomenal, and they got enough runs and enough offense, and they just held off Baltimore the rest of the way. You and I talked about the thing that's going really well for the Red Sox during this streak: starting pitching and bullpen. If that continues, they don't have to score 12 runs to win a game, Greg. And I think that is really the story of what's going on. We thought, they don't have any home run hitters. They don't need to score a lot of runs if they're going to keep pitching both starting and bullpen the way that they have. And I don't know that Baltimore is going to be the answer to this, where all of a sudden, you know what happens when they're due. That ain't going to happen here. Craig Breslow, I hate to admit it, is looking smarter and smarter by each win here of the Red Sox. And I'm not stepping in front of them. I mean, they announced Rivera being the lefty. Not me against Kyle. I'll take the Red Sox again against Kyle Bradish.
Yeah, I think so. It's the way to go. You know, the other thing, Joe, that has happened with this Red Sox winning streak is that, and you mentioned Craig Breslow, that's a good point, is that everybody in Craig Breslow's seat right now, Joe, that's sitting in their office, that's looking over players in the trade deadline, no matter what their record is outside of, I don't know, maybe the Mets or the Rockies or the A's, like a few teams, they're all going, look at those guys. They just won 15 in a row. I would probably say, Joe, that the Red Sox have saved their season, charging toward a potential postseason berth, and may ruin the trade deadline. Because now everyone is looking at them going, wait a second, why are we punting? Why are we giving up? We can't stop. I mean, if the Red Sox can do it, and they looked left for dead. I mean, they were right there with the Mets and the Giants. And now all of a sudden they're there. Like if you're like the Giants, that's a crazy talk here, Joe. But if you're the Giants, and they played the Royals today, what a disaster. But if you're sitting out there and you're Buster Posey, are you saying to yourself, well, the Red Sox just won 15 in a row? We'll take 12. We'll just win 12 in a row, and we're right back in it too. So this is the big story of the summer at this point. It wasn't the story in the early part of the year, but now the Red Sox, you have to consider them very much in the mix as far as buyers. You have to consider them very much in the mix for the playoffs. The only team I think this really hurts, Joe, are the Blue Jays. I think this may put the Blue Jays to bed over the next week or so, but I think everybody else is looking at this like, why not us? Why can't we do what they did?
And again, it's, the 15-game winning streak is great since July 3rd, but, they've won 20 of their last 22 games, and it happened prior to the All-Star game. They came out of the All-Star game. They have been rolling, and they're getting contributions up and down. I mean, Chapman, again, I think 9th on the all-time saves list after this game here today. He closed it out into the 390th career save. He's now in company with Dennis Eckersley, I think tied for 9th on the career saves list. I think of Chapman, Cubs, Yankees, Red Sox, that was with Pittsburgh a year ago.
Royals.
For a guy that's top 10 all time and to have been as on many teams as he has, kind of crazy when you think about it, Greg.
Well, the thing with Chapman, Joe, is that he completely fell off 2-3 years ago. Yep. Everyone thought his career was over. He was working out here in South Florida, pitching in both Dade and Broward County. In fact, he was at my son's school. He threw a bullpen, and he couldn't get a job. He couldn't get a 1-year, $1 million, Joe. He ended up signing, I believe it was with the Pirates at the time, or the Royals. He bounced around with those two teams for a couple of years. Now, all of a sudden, he's back to being the guy that he was 7 to 10 years ago, which is incredible. Yeah. The one thing that I'll say about Chapman, and naturally he's got he had the domestic stuff going on with him in the past. It's going to be a very complex Hall of Fame case when it comes out. The one thing that I would say in Chapman's favor, and I don't think that it changed, I think that he just went through a couple of injury-plagued seasons and he wasn't himself, is nobody works harder than this guy, Joe. You've seen this guy lifting weights and his body and the way that he takes care of himself. Yep. And that, I think, has kept him around in the game for a really, really long time. But you're right. His elite game was back when it was with the Yankees and then traded to the Cubs and then back to the Yankees again. He's still a guy, though.
Yeah, and the Red Sox are still winning. We'll see if they do it again as game time.
They come in a lot more better prepared to play than, say, we did, having to learn some of the things that we learned coming into the NFL that we weren't learning in college. A lot of these kids are getting quarterback coaches, as far back as junior high school and all the way through high school into college. So I think the position is a lot more stronger than it's ever been.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Atlanta should be the team to step up and secure him.
Yeah, Atlanta's really interesting because they're, much further down the list at only, 8% right now on Call Sheet. But this is a team that has constantly come up in terms of GMs thinking, or the reports suggesting that GMs are thinking that Atlanta Braves are the dark horse team to kind of swoop in there and get Scoogle. And that's going to be something that, we should pay attention to.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Wembanyama goes to the park and plays chess against people. Like, I saw him come in with a book today. Yeah. He walked in with a book, Kevin. He had a bunch of books in his hand. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, he's the only NBA player that actually walks in with a book that actually read it.
Yeah. It's a good take. Yeah.
Shot of LeBron.
Listen,
I couldn't help it.
I knew that I was trying to cut you off before you said the name.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
All right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Craig Mish, as we've got a loaded slate of Major League Baseball going on. As tonight coming up, the Boston Red Sox go for history here, as they have tied the longest winning streak in their franchise history, trying to surpass that with a doubleheader. Game 2 coming up within the next hour or so here. I think that should be a lot of fun as they handle business 6-3 in Game 1. They'll see if they can get it done at Fenway, but they are without a doubt the second half story in Major League Baseball. But we've got other games going on. And boy, I didn't see this one here, Craig. I told you last night, I thought maybe some runs would be coming with the Nationals and Rockies. They apparently left it all out on the field last night, because we have a 1-0 game in the top of the 7th in Colorado. And Cavalli is pitching outstanding for the Nationals. They are up 1-0 there. The Mets are running out of outs right now, as they are down 4-2 against the Brewers. Soto, I don't believe, was in the lineup for this one here today. I mean, why would he be, right? You won a game last. What's no point in trying to win back-to-back games there. Athletics and Diamondbacks knotted up at 2 apiece, bottom of the 5th in that one. Jump on the mound for the Athletics, Merrill Kelly for the Diamondbacks. And the Reds and Mariners. Mariners just took the lead, end of the 5th. They are up 3-2 in Seattle there. And you're my favorite, the St. Louis Cardinals and the Angels. No score right now in that one, as the Angels are trying to, go 3 in a row here? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
The Angels all of a sudden, and our boy that we talked about yesterday, Reed Detmers, who I would not be shocked if this is his last start in an Angels uniform here as the trade deadline approaches. But all of a sudden, the Cardinals, they can't hit left-handed pitching, and maybe a little dose of reality coming back down to life here. As this has not been a great road trip for them, to say the least.
No, I thought that the Cardinals would take care of their business against the Angels, and it hasn't gone that way. I think it's fair to say, Joe, the Cardinals are playing their worst baseball of the season at the least opportune time, because that front office has to make a decision what they're going to do next week as far as either add, subtract, or do nothing. And I think it may be trending now the other way, Joe. With the way that the Marlins have played lately, like I said, all of a sudden you got the Pirates and the Diamondbacks in much better spots than they were a week ago. So look, we're going to come right down to the wire on all this stuff. I don't anticipate anything happening this weekend, maybe not even early part of next week too. There's just so much uncertainty heading into this thing. And yeah, I mean, look, the Brewers today, 4-2. That's pretty much a wrap when the Brewers have a lead like that late in the game. They just go to those guys in the bullpen, and that's usually it. So we'll keep an eye on that one as well. And look, as far as Washington and Colorado goes, if there's one pitcher that can really defy some of those odds in that game, in that environment, it is Cade Cavalli. I mean, Joe, Cade Cavalli, I think next year going into the season will be one of those, 45-1 Cy Young Award guys that you kind of put in there a little bit at the beginning of the season, because I know, look, he may not be the most well-liked guy after some of the stuff that's gone on, but Joe, he is a really strong pitcher, and I think they've got a good one for years to come there. They just got to fill out the rest of the rotation. Not easy to do.
Yeah, Griffin has been listen, starting pitching, they've done a pretty good job. The bullpen's still a hot mess right now for the Nationals, and probably will be for the foreseeable future. But we mentioned it yesterday, third best in Major League Baseball on the road this year. They have been great. And I mean great for those that have backed them on the road all year long. But they are going to need that bullpen at some point to come in and hold the lead.
Absolutely.
But a big single, I think they just got 2 more across. So 3-0 now gives them a little bit of a cushion in that spot there. You mentioned it earlier. We did shrug it off. The Giants just, my goodness. They lost to the Royals 5-4. They only had 4 hits on a day. Lugo was fantastic. 7 innings pitched, 3 hits, 3 earned. And even Landon Root was not 6 innings, 4 hits, 2 earned runs.
He was fine.
He was good. I think Perez hits another home run there to kind of open it up for the Royals. But the Giants, even in a hitter's ballpark, Craig, they can't get it done. That offense is just head-scratching. It really is terrible.
Yeah, Casey Schmidt's been great. He hit another home run for them. That's been a huge surprise. If you told the Giants fans, hey, you're going to get this guy Casey Schmidt hitting 30 home runs this season, you would have said, wow, Giants are going to have a good year. The problem is, outside of Devers and him, not a lot happening with the Giants offensively. They've been awful. For Kansas City, by the way, today, I think I noticed something, Joe. I'm going to throw some very easy trivia out at you, which I think that you'll be able to nail pretty easily in baseball. So Salvador Perez hit a home run today, and he broke the all-time Royals home run record held by, this is as easy as it gets, right? This is an easy one for you, Joe.
I would say Willie Wilson. No, I'm kidding. It would have had to have been
easy. Come
part
on,
of that.
You got this.
Let me think. Is
the
it
most
George
royal,
Brett?
Popular. There
is
you
it,
go.
Is
Joe.
it George Brett?
Go.
Yes,
there
Mr. Pine Tar himself. Outstanding.
Yeah, Salvador Perez. That's a Hall of
catcher.
Famer. Yeah, that's a Hall of Famer, Salvador Perez. No question about that.
Yep.
A player with one team his entire career at catcher. Yeah, I mean, Sal Perez, captain of that team for a really long time, and Joe, he's kind of he's not Mike Trout, but he's sort of the Mike Trout of the Royals. Like he's had so many opportunities to leave, he never has. The Royals are going to be bad this year. There's a lot of rumors that this is it for Salvador Perez, and he's going to retire at the end of the season, which would really stink because he didn't get his chance. To go back to the World Series. I believe, I don't know if he was the World Series MVP, but obviously he won a World Series with the Royals. I think it was back in 2015. They beat the Mets, and a great player. Easy Hall of Famer for me when it's all said and done.
Listen, longevity and catchers don't usually go hand in hand, and he has been to be with the same team. He's part of a older, old school generation there where he had plenty of opportunities to leave, and he stuck it out. And small market team that, they had a lot of success during his tenure there. But, now that Witt is on the IL for 10 days with back spasms, that bullpen once again is just really awful. Reagans was hurt. Waka might not be on his team next week. We just saw Lugo pitch a gem, but he too could be on his way out the door. So there could be a lot of changes coming up here as the trade deadline approaches April 3rd. And I believe we just got it's funny. We talked about it. Another home run here for the Nats to make it 5-0 in the top of the second as Garcia Jr. comes off the bench. A pitch hit,
a great year.
2-run, huge year for him, too. We've got other updates for you, plus another Dodgers-Phillies matchup coming up as Game Time Decisions continues on the grid.
They come in a lot more better prepared to play than, say, we did, having to learn some of the things that we learned coming into the NFL that we weren't learning in college. A lot of these kids are getting quarterback coaches, as far back as junior high school and all the way through high school into college. So I think the position is a lot more stronger than it's ever been.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Atlanta should be the team to step up and secure him.
Yeah, Atlanta's really interesting because they're, much further down the list at only, 8% right now on call sheet. But this is a team that has constantly come up in terms of GMs thinking, or the reports suggesting that GMs are thinking that Atlanta Braves are the dark horse team to kind of swoop in there and get Scoogle. And that's going to be something that, we should pay attention to.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Wembanyama goes to the park and plays chess against people. I saw him come in with a book today. Yeah. He walked in with a book, Kevin. He had a bunch of books in his hand. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, he's the only NBA player that actually walks in with a book that actually read it.
Yeah. It's a good take. It's a good take. Yeah.
Shot of LeBron.
Listen,
I couldn't help it.
I knew that I was trying to cut you off before you said the name.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
All right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. Joe Raineri and Craig Mish, as we've got plenty of afternoon baseball. Some games wrapping up right now. And just in the last couple of minutes here, we've seen the runs start pouring in. Arizona up 7-2 on the Athletics right now. And, of course, we told you the Nationals went from a 1-0 game to a 5-0 game. They're in the top of the seventh. That's another home run now for Arizona. That's now a 9-2 game. This was, 2-2, I think, heading into the bottom of the fifth. They've scored 7 runs in this inning to open it up here a little bit. We do have some interesting games coming up still. And I'm looking forward to this Dodgers-Phillies game because you have Aaron Nola going for the Phillies, who the Phillies never win his games when he starts. And then you have Eric Lauer, who everybody runs to the window to look to fade like his name is Patrick Corbin. The problem is the Dodgers never lose any of his starts. So something has got to give in this game here. Obviously, Nola not having the kind of year that we thought he would, whether it's on the road or at home. In the weather last night, Dodgers squeaked one out, got one back. What happens in this one, you think, here, Craig?
Well, going back to last night, it was I don't know that the Phillies would have won, but they certainly gave the last couple outs away. Unfortunately, my good buddy JT Realmuto, an all-timer for him. I think he's going to look back on that one, running back to second base when they threw the ball in a run down to third base. Haven't seen that one in a long time, so was not happy to see that for my guy there, JT, who is one of my favorites ever in the history of the game. But look, I think, this is one of those games that probably comes right down to the end, Joe. It feels like these teams on paper are pretty close. Everyone wants to believe that the Dodgers will run away with everything, and they may for the division. But as we saw in the World Series last year, when you get two very competitive teams and two teams that could be playing each other in the NLCS, or maybe even at any point in the postseason, it's going to be a battle. Look, there's no question that Aaron Nola is not having his best season. You would wonder, Joe, if the Phillies acquired a pitcher next week, what would Aaron Nola be? I mean, I think they owe it to Aaron Nola to keep him in that rotation, but I don't think I don't know about you, but I don't think he's part of a postseason rotation that has Christopher Sanchez and Zach Wheeler and Jesus Luzardo. And if they get another, I don't know where that would leave Aaron Nola. But certainly he's been one of the greatest pitchers in the history of their franchise. It just doesn't look like he's got a ton left in the tank. So I would play the first 5 in this one. I would probably play LA, but I wouldn't guarantee that that's a win because it could be 2-1 in the 5th inning. And I certainly don't have full trust in the Dodgers bullpen until they get some of those guys back healthy, namely Edwin Diaz, who seems like he'll be back in the next week or two. So Dodgers bullpen still very strong, but to me, shoe's going to drop eventually on Lauer. And the question is, can his left-handed arm get out Schwarber, get out Bryce Harper, get out Brandon Marsh? Those are the kind of the key figures I think involved in that game today.
Yeah, and it's I think it's going to be one of two things. Either it's going to be a back and forth slugfest, or it's just going to be runs are going to be tough to come by. I don't think it's going to be anything in the middle here. But as bad as that was with Remuno last night, I'm not sure. Ohtani trying to take second base and them not hustling at home for the third out was just another one of those. I've seen Little League teams execute this better than anything else, but you went from a 10-7 game on Monday to the series opener to a 2-1 game last night. Yep. What are we going to get tonight with 2 less than stellar pitchers? I think that should be a fun one. That is coming up in just a little over an hour here. And of course, we're hearing more and more about that August 3rd deadline, the trading deadline here. And will they or won't they? And that's the story right now, Greg, is who is going to be the sellers, who are going to be the buyers. And even if you are a buyer, how much are you willing to pay for some of the names that are available on this right now? And of course, we know Skubal is going to be at the top of everyone's list, but is that a reality? Is it realistic to think Skubal is going to be one of the first person or one of the first players traded, or by maybe the last person traded at the deadline? Usually there's a lot more hype around this. We know he's going to get paid. It may not be next season. It may be whenever they eventually get on the same page with the CBA, but somebody is going to give him money. The question is, will he be pitching for the Detroit Tigers in the near future? Those questions are still to be answered here. We've got a couple of other names that have been thrown into the mix. We'll let you know what we're hearing and what's being reported there. And the more we watch some of these teams play, the more, Craig, I am feeling optimistic that more and more teams could be looking to unload just about everyone in those expired contracts. We'll talk more about it. Get you ready for tonight's games as Game Time Decisions continues here on the Grid.
Come in a lot more better prepared to play than say we did, having to learn some of the things that we learned coming into the NFL that we weren't learning in college. A lot of these kids are getting quarterback coaches, as far back as junior high school and all the way through high school into college. So I think the position is a lot more stronger than it's ever been.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Atlanta should be the team to step up and secure him.
Yeah, Atlanta's really interesting because they're, much further down the list at only, 8% right now on call sheet. But this is a team that has constantly come up in terms of GMs thinking, or the reports suggesting that GMs are thinking that Atlanta Braves are the dark horse team to kind of swoop in there and get Skubal. And that's going to be something that, we should pay attention to.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Wembanyama goes to the park and plays chess against people. I saw him come in with a book today. Yeah. He walked in with a book, Kevin. He had a bunch of books in his hand. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, he's the only NBA player that actually walks in with a book that actually read it.
Yeah. It's a good take. It's a good take. Yeah.
Shot of LeBron. Listen, I couldn't help it.
I knew that I was trying to cut you off before you said the name.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
All right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Craig Mish as the runs keep coming in these games here. Sal Stewart just hits a 3-run home run to put the Reds on top of Seattle in the top of the 7th, 5-3 in that game there. Still no score with the Cardinals and the Angels. They're in the top of the 6th. Reed Detmers doing some good things there. One of the games coming up here tonight, also interesting, is going to be Tampa and the Blue Jays here as the Blue Jays, boy, their hitting woes continue. They are just not a very good offensive team right now. Jack's going for the Rays here. They'll open up with Fisher, and then they'll give way to a bulk guy. But the bottom line is you have to score in order to win games. The Blue Jays have not been doing that. And you and I talked yesterday, keep hearing Springer's name coming up. The Rays are absolutely making it known that they're on the market and maybe on the prowl for making a little bit of a push here at the trade deadline. Blue Jays sellers, Rays buyers. You still think there, Craig?
Toronto, but obviously I think Tampa Bay is a buyer at this point. And Joe, it's a stat. I mean, think about a team that went to the World Series, Joe, the Toronto Blue Jays. How did they get there last year? Of course, they pitched well, and Dylan Cease did a good job, or is doing a good job for them now. Trey Savage in the postseason. Joe, the Toronto Blue Jays are last in runs in Major League Baseball.
Crazy.
Last.
Crazy.
I mean, I never in a million years would have thought that. They have the worst offense essentially in the game. And so, Joe, when they look in the mirror, can you fix that now in August with 1 or 2 players? Probably not. So I'm trending to believe that if this continues, maybe the Blue Jays next week just decide to punt and let it go. And, by the way, I think that's probably a question that comes up for a lot of people is that, like, have teams decided what they're going to do? The answer is no. Now, do I think by this time next week teams will at least know what they want to do? I think so. But things are just so tight. I don't think anybody's fully decided going into this weekend and maybe even early next week. But I think a week from today, next Wednesday, you got to kind of have a clue as to which direction you're going to go. And that's when you start to see maybe some of the trades come in. But I don't anticipate anything happening, by the way, over the next week. One other note that I wanted to point out to you, Joe, here is the Diamondbacks now lead the A's 9-2. The A's fired their pitching coach. So how's that going? I'm going to tell you. So today, the A's gave up 5 home runs. They're only in the 5th inning. The game is not in Sacramento, by the way. The game is in Arizona, in Phoenix.
Yep.
Gage jumped 4 2/3, 8 hits, 4 walks, 6 runs, 3 home runs. So they brought in this relief pitcher today, and his name on the A's, I've never heard of him before. His name is Tur. Tur is his last name. His first name is Junior Tur. His ERA this season is 40. That's 4-0. That's his ERA. He's thrown 2 innings, 10 hits, 9 earned runs. He came in today into the game because the A's have so many injuries. You talk about wanting to fade a team in the last couple months of the season, Joe. I give you the Sacramento A's. This is a team that is going to be struggling, man, like in a very big way at the end. I'm disappointed. I thought that maybe they were making some progress, and certainly they had an MVP candidate in Nick Kurtz. But Joe, doesn't it feel like the second Nick Kurtz went down, even though the pitching's been awful, it feels like the second he went down, their season ended. So I'm heavy fading Sacramento from here on out.
I think it's a great call here. It's because at this point, and don't forget, we got to the All-Star game almost 100 games into the regular season. It was bad in the month of June and July for them. It's going to be even worse in August. And, it's tough being part of an organization who, when are they slated to get to Vegas? I mean, they played 3 games, I think, or 6 games in Vegas in 2020. 28, right? I mean, they played 6 games, I think, back-to-back series in that ballpark outdoors, the minor league park in Las Vegas, which was hilarious because I think we got 20-plus runs in almost half those games there. It's that they feel like a fish out of water. They always have some talent, but you're just still not sure of what's going on with that organization. And now I'm with you. Get to this point in the season, everybody's hurt. You're playing in another minor league ballpark. Yeah, I could see them just, if you're in the farm system of the Athletics, probably a good thing, Greg, because you're probably going to get called up and have some opportunities to showcase your talents. But it seems like it's going from bad to worse for the Athletics. And you said it earlier, and it bears repeating. Do not sleep on the Arizona Diamondbacks this time of year. I don't know what it is. I don't know why it takes them this long. I mean, Corbin Carroll was hitting less than 100, I think, over the last, month of the regular season. And they're starting to put it together here. And if they can get the long ball going, I think they've got every bit of shot to make some noise here. Obviously, you still got to get past the Dodgers at some point, but I feel like we've seen this movie with Arizona in the past. Have we not here, Greg?
Yeah, I mean, Arizona beat LA in the National League Championship Series to go to the World Series not too long ago. I mean, it's just 3 years ago. And I don't think San Diego's in their way this season, and we know the Giants aren't, and we know the Rockies aren't. So those, if you think about 3 teams that Arizona is going to play a lot in August and September, that they have a shot to beat. And it's not like I'm in love with this team or the organization or anything. I'm just, the facts are the facts. They do seem to turn it on late in the year. I know they haven't been hitting, and Zach Gallen's on the IL, but it's a very aggressive franchise that I think is going to make some moves, and they're probably going to go for it again. As far as Las Vegas is concerned, or Sacramento, however you want to call the A's, Joe, the big misnomer for them, it's kind of funny, is that they signed some guys to long-term extensions this offseason. They played very well in April and pretty good in May, and everyone said, wow, they're doing the right thing. They're headed in the right direction. They're throwing a little bit of money around to, give some hope for the future. Let me explain something to you, okay? Las Vegas A's are going to sell out every game. It doesn't matter if they win 100 or lose 100. Let's look at the Raiders for a second. They said the same thing about the Raiders. How can the Raiders go to Las Vegas and not be great? They're getting this brand new stadium, state of the art. They're getting Super Bowls there and all kinds of college championships. And the Raiders stink. I got news for you. There's no guarantee the A's are going to go to Vegas and are going to be good at all. In fact, they may be horrible. But it won't matter because they're going to sell out that place every single night. It's a huge transient community. So many people will be just going to Vegas, and they're going to look online, and they're not going to be able to buy a show for Mariah Carey because it's $1,000, and they look at that stadium for the A's, and they buy their $30 ticket, and they go play a game of blackjack, and they win, and they go see an A's game. I'm telling you now, I'm not buying that all of a sudden just because the A's are headed into a new place that they're going to be great. Now, I would say this. Most teams in sports, you can't get away with opening up a new building and sucking. You can't. But I think they can.
Yes.
I think they can.
Yeah.
In Las Vegas.
Yep. Well, and keep in mind, I mean, they put a franchise there in the NHL, and what did they do in their first season, right? They made it all the way to the Stanley Cup final. They won a championship early on. So it is possible. And I know there's a NBA team coming their way.
Definitely.
So there is... you're right. If selling tickets is not probably going to be an issue for them, no matter how bad they are, but they got to get there first. And I got questions on whether that stadium's even going to be done by 2028. But
it looks like it is. It looks like it is.
And I'll tell you this.
It looks like I think
they
it will.
go to minor league games in Vegas. As crazy as the weather is, and they love baseball in Las Vegas. I think it's overdue, but congratulations. The Athletics will be in Vegas in the next couple of seasons. But you're right. Doesn't mean they are going to be any good at all. All right. We got a couple of other games coming up. 2 second legs of a doubleheader, including one that is going to feature the return of Max Fried for the Yankees. But Greg and I will discuss what is that? What do you expect from guys like this that are coming off the IL? We haven't seen them in a while. They're front end guys. We'll look at the numbers. We'll break it down as Game Time Decisions continues here on this Wednesday on the Grid.
They come in a lot more better prepared to play than say we did, having to learn some of the things that we learned coming into the NFL that we weren't learning in college. A lot of these kids are getting quarterback coaches, as far back as junior high school and all the way through high school into college. So I think the position is a lot more stronger than it's ever been.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Atlanta should be the team to step up and secure him.
Yeah, Atlanta's really interesting because they're, much further down the list at only, 8% right now on call sheet. But this is a team that has constantly come up in terms of GMs thinking, or the reports suggesting that GMs are thinking that Atlanta Braves are the dark horse team to kind of swoop in there and get Skubal. And that's going to be something that, we should pay attention to.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Wembanyama goes to the park and plays chess against people. Like, I saw him come in with a book today. Yeah. He walked in with a book, Kevin. He had a bunch of books in his hand. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, he's the only NBA player that actually walks in with a book that actually read it.
Yeah. It's a good take. It's a good take. Yeah.
Shot of LeBron.
Listen,
I couldn't help
I
it.
knew that I was trying to cut you off before you said the name.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Craig Mish as we're getting ready for much more Major League Baseball coming up a little bit later here. A lot of early games, first legs of a doubleheader. Yankees drop one in extra innings where they burned Bednar, I think, in the ninth inning. And 3-3, Garrett Cole started that game. Not great for the Yankees bats. Once again, they go from scoring 1 million runs to barely getting 3 on the board there. But good news is here, Craig, coming up in this second game, they welcome back Max Fried coming off the IL. Now, you and I recall Max Fried was a shell of himself, it looked like, prior. I think it was May 16th is when they eventually pulled him and said, bone bruise in his left elbow. He has not pitched since May 13th. So when you hear that, but it's Max Fried, right? What kind of expectations should we have? Pitch count? Are we happy to get 3 innings out of it? Like, what do we think the expectations are for a guy like this?
It was a strange decision, I think, for the Yankees to pitch him in game 2 because you don't know what you're going to get. So that's a fair point that you bring up with a pitcher that's coming off being out for so long. But he did make at least, I believe, 2 appearances in the minor leagues. Some folks were surprised that it was only 2 or whatever that number was, and they brought him back quickly. So, Joe, I think they have to be looking for a little length here today from him. And I'm not talking about 7 innings, but I think 5 would be reasonable. I don't think they'll let him get to 100 pitches. Somewhere between 80 and 90 would be a guess for me. But, it's funny, as Fried started off the season, if you remember, and you go back to April and in the early part of May, and the Cy Young Awards on FanDuel and DraftKings, he was the favorite to win the Cy Young. And then things went south quick, and then we found out that he was hurt, and Cam Schlittler took over, and certainly he's been great. Garrett Cole's been great too. But they're going to need Fried, no question. He's going to be either game 2 or game 3 starter in a postseason series. I think that you would think, Cole probably still gets game 1. Schlittler would get game 2, Fried game 3, and then Rodon, if they really need him at some point. Maybe he'd start or be in the bullpen. I'm not really sure. And some people think the Yankees still need a starting pitcher too. Maybe they do, Joe, because counting on health with Rodon and Fried in particular, not very wise. And Cole, who knows how many innings he could even throw this season after coming off Tommy John surgery. So I kind of do like the Pirates here. This is one of those blind faith bets where it is a doubleheader, and I would expect the Yankees to come back and battle back. My concern would be the other doubleheader is that the Red Sox are just so hot. I don't want to get in their way. But yeah, I think for me, I would probably take New York in the second part of this doubleheader today.
Yeah, he did. You're right. His 17th last week, he pitched 3 innings in Scranton, 2 earned runs, no walks, 3 strikeouts, 52 pitches. So he had 1 rehab start, and then they said, well, we kind of need you here. It'd be great. So they're bringing him up. If you can get 4 innings out of him, 5 innings, great. Let's see what happens. I know they're in a favorable split because as much as Pittsburgh has been crushing the ball, they've been crushing right-handed pitching more than anything else. So that it'll be interesting to see what they can get here out of him because they might need him to hit too because the Yankees just can't seem to score enough runs consistently to get it going here. But you mentioned the other game. Man, I don't know. They're already social media. I mean, 15-game winning streak. Kyle Bradish on the mound for Baltimore. This is ripe for a quick sweep here for Baltimore, maybe even Pittsburgh for that matter. But certainly for Boston, man, I don't want to. I'm just going to keep riding them, Craig, especially at a decent price, right? Because the price is not over the top. They got Rivera going. It's going to be a bullpen game of sorts. The minus 120 is what they are as a favorite in the second game. It's, just ride them until they lose not just one, Craig. I need them to lose 2 in a row before I'll stop betting them.
And you know what, Joe? They got a day off tomorrow, so that's the worst news for them because they're so hot. Yeah. They shouldn't have a day off. But here's the good news for them: they got the Blue Jays in this weekend. They could put an end to their season. You would think that the Red Sox would take probably 2 out of 3 from the Blue Jays. You don't. I mean, do you see Toronto going into Boston this week and winning that series as hot as Boston is? I do not. So yeah, I think the beat just rolls on for the Red Sox. Those series where Boston plays Tampa and Boston plays New York down the stretch, those are going to be a lot more compelling than we thought. And if I'm not mistaken, Red Sox, for the first time in a couple of years, actually visit here in South Florida. They visit the Marlins, I believe, in August. So I'll be at that series too. But yeah, the Red Sox are certainly playing some great baseball and looking forward to seeing what they end up pulling off because now they're the story of the game right now. I mean, Joe, that's it. I mean, you win this many games in a row. It's impossible to ignore. Yeah, I mean, how many in a row do you think? So if they were to win this one, that would be 16. And sweeping the Blue Jays is a possibility too. That could be 19 in a row.
And they're believing, and I think they're still doing. I mean, they don't have what? They don't have Trevor Story. They haven't had what would Roman Garrett Anthony. Crochet bring to this? Roman Anthony. I mean, if they had even Crochet available to him, it would be interesting. But again, he hasn't. We pitched what, April, and then he went down, and they have been very, very impressive, and it's good for baseball. Listen, Yankees, Red Sox, it's always good when you've got teams like that are playing well this time of year. But still a lot of baseball to go. I don't see Tampa rolling over anytime soon, as they've got one of the best records in the American League. I am still scratching my head, though, Greg, with the Twins and the Guardians, and the Guardians' ability to still win games. I don't know how they don't have Ramirez. They don't have one of these great lineups, but they too, this time of year, seem to figure it out, get it done. They got one of the best closers in a game in Cade Smith out of the bullpen. They don't need to score a lot of runs with how they've been pitching as well. They'll have another opportunity coming up. Bailey Ober versus Ciccone. We'll break that game down for you here. But, the White Sox all of a sudden lose 10-0 yesterday. The Guardians win. Guardians are right up there with the White Sox in a very winnable Central Division. Only the Royals. I know. Only the Royals are done. in that division as far as I'm concerned here. I think it's still anybody's game. I think that's kind of crazy, but they are a minus 140 favorite tonight. I don't know if I like Slade Ciccone that much to lay a $140, but Bailey Ober did look good in his first appearance back.
Cleveland.
So
Take
much
Cleveland.
more to
Take
get
Cleveland.
to. Minus, sure. What do you care? It's not your money. Game Time Decisions continues here on the grid.
They come in a lot more better prepared to play than say we did, having to learn some of the things that we learned coming into the NFL that we weren't learning in college. A lot of these kids are getting quarterback coaches, as far back as junior high school and all the way through high school into college. So I think the position is a lot more stronger than it's ever been.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Atlanta should be the team to step up and secure him.
Yeah, Atlanta's really interesting because they're, much further down the list at only, 8% right now on Kalshi. But this is a team that has constantly come up in terms of GMs thinking, or the reports suggesting that GMs are thinking that Atlanta Braves are the dark horse team to kind of swoop in there and get Scooble. And that's going to be something that, we should pay attention to.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Wembanyama goes to the park and plays chess against people. Like, I saw him come in with a book today. Yeah. He walked in with a book, Kevin. He had a bunch of books in his hand. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, he's the only NBA player that actually walks in with a book that actually read it.
Yeah. It's a good take. It's a good take. Yeah.
Shot of LeBron.
Listen,
I couldn't help
I
it.
knew that I was trying to cut you off before you said the name.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
All right, welcome back in as we look to wrap up this first hour together here. Game Time Decisions on the SportsGrid Network. Joe Raineri and Craig Mish. And we got a bunch of games that have already finished here on the diamond. 8-0, by the way. Nationals over the Rockies as they head to the top of the ninth. The Diamondbacks keep scoring now, 11-2 over the Athletics. And the Reds are holding on 5-3. They're in the bottom of the eighth at T-Mobile in Seattle. And a pitcher's duel right now with the Cardinals and Angels. 1-0 Cardinals, top of the seventh. Still to come here, though. You got to give them credit. The Guardians just keep winning games. I don't know how they do it. Slade Ciccone out on the mound here tonight. Bailey Ober back from Minnesota. Progressive field, I want to play an under. I don't know how they keep doing it, the Guardians, but they're now tied with the White Sox, Greg. It feels like the Guardians are the team to beat in the Central here, any which way we slice it. Guys.
Ball right now. I mean, look, the Yankees are surviving without Aaron Judge, and other teams will survive without their star too. But how in the world is Cleveland surviving without Jose Ramirez? Like he's so good, and they're hanging in there. I would never bet against Cleveland. Like I figure out of every 10 games they're going to win 6. To me, and they're never huge favorites either. So I watch them play a bunch. I'm not interested in that. One thing I am keeping an eye on here, of course, because my Marlins play tonight at 8:00, and they've lost 8 games in a row. Is what's transpiring here in that National League wild card today, which I'm not liking very much. So Arizona's up big. The Pirates already won. J.J. Weatherholt just homered for the Cardinals, so that gave them a 1-0 lead over the Angels. And dare I say, Miami, I'm on the sideline this weekend. I'm working the Marlins-Padres series this weekend. I'm the sideline reporter. But my Marlins are going to need to win this game today. I mean, they have got to win this game today because they're going to be falling way far behind. I mean, they were 4 or 5 games up on the final wild card spot, and now they're a game behind the Pirates. They're going to be behind Arizona, and they got Sandy pitching tonight. So I'm going to hope for the best here, Joe. But I don't know. 8 losses in a row. I don't talk Marlins betting at all here on SportsGrid, but my heart is telling me that they get this today. I'm hopeful that they get this one today. But I mean, do you feel the same way about when teams win a lot and they lose a lot, where you'll pile on a losing team, Joe, just like you will on a winning team? Pretty much, right? It's like still a trend.
I just won't bet them. You know, what we say is we don't want to catch a falling knife. And sometimes, you know, it's very easy, Craig, to look at a team like the Marlins going through it 8 consecutive and go, oh, they're due. Yeah, no, that's not how it works here. You know, and my question is really, I mean, listen, a lot of things had to go against them. And you and I talked, and I remember talking with you, you know, that Guardian series where it feels like this all started at home.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They could have won 2 of 3 of those games, should have won 2 of 3 of those games. They've had a few of them where a hit here, a bounce there. It's not like they're getting blown out. They are very much playing in games they can win. But you know that, Greg, in a 162-game season, I can tell you this, all they need is one win, and nobody will remember the 8-game losing streak in that locker room, correct?
Yeah. And look, the other game on, I think it was Sunday against Milwaukee, wasn't it? That they had the lead, and Pete Fairbanks came in, and William Contreras hit the home run, and then they lost that game. They were up 1-0 there. But, you know, what's funny, Joe, is I could go back to games earlier in the season and find games the Marlins won that they probably should have lost to. I think this all evens out over the course of the season. Yeah, I mean, I don't usually play that game. You're 100% right. They could have won, I think, 2 of the 3 games against Cleveland. 1 game they didn't have a chance, but 2 of the 3 games I think they should have or could have. But then I go back to the series, Joe, right before that. They played Seattle, and I was, I think, doing pre and post for that. They beat Seattle all 3. They could have lost 2 out of 3 against Seattle in that series too. It was a very, very close games. So I think the mentality for any team that's losing this many in a row, and every team loses 4 or 5. Not every team loses 8. 8's a big number.
Correct.
So getting off that and winning today could potentially change their fortunes. But they have San Diego does Miami this weekend, and then I'll be at the series where they play Philadelphia too. So it's not going to get much easier for them. The Padres are not a great team, but, you know, they're formidable. Like, you don't think, and by the way, Machado is getting hot all of a sudden, and Tatis is getting hot too.
Yep.
So it's not going to be easy. And the Padres have been known also for their late season surges. So I am looking forward to this weekend, and I'm looking forward to tonight because, man, the games have been over against Houston early on in these games. Like, they're just getting clobbered early on, and then they're having to come back.
Yeah. Playing from behind is rough. It'd be great if they could play from in front here tonight. We got another hour to break it all down for you, though, as Game Time Decisions continues on the grid.
They come in a lot more better prepared to play than, say, we did, having to learn some of the things that we learned coming into the NFL that we weren't learning in college. A lot of these kids are getting quarterback coaches, you know, as far back as junior high school and all the way through high school into college. So I think the position is a lot more stronger than it's ever been.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Atlanta should be the team to step up and secure him.
Yeah, Atlanta's really interesting because they're, much further down the list at only, 8% right now on call sheet. But this is a team that has constantly come up in terms of GMs thinking, or the reports suggesting that GMs are thinking that Atlanta Braves are the dark horse team to kind of swoop in there and get Scoogle. And that's going to be something that, we should pay attention to.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Wembanyama goes to the park and plays chess against people. Like, I saw him come in with a book today. Yeah. He walked in with a book, Kevin. He had a bunch of books in his hand. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, he's the only NBA player that actually walks in with a book that actually read it.
Yeah. It's a good take. It's a good take. Yeah.
Shot of LeBron.
Listen,
I couldn't help
I
it.
knew that I was trying to cut you off before you said the name.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. Off and running for another hour together. Joe Raineri alongside Craig Mish as we get you ready for the rest of the slate here today in Major League Baseball. Of course, the big story is that the Boston Red Sox have won their 15th in a row earlier today. They do have second of a doubleheader coming up, top of next hour. Can they make it 16 in a row? Greg and I have been talking, and we just don't see the schedule lines up. The baseball gods are lining up. A lot of things going very well for the Red Sox right now. Yankees have a second game coming up. They'll welcome back Max Fried, which is great news, especially if they can insert him in the lineup and maybe score a few more runs, because they certainly didn't in game one as they lost in extra innings 5-3. And we have an update, Craig, at least we thought we did this morning, on where is LeBron James going to go. Boy, that has been a big topic of conversation. And most people woke up today to see that, well, the Miami Heat site there is looks like they were getting ready for some sort of press conference on July 27th to announce LeBron James in a Heat uniform, except everyone's saying, yeah, that was not supposed to happen. Is that an oops, Craig, or what do you think?
No, I definitely think that it was a mistake, but yeah. I am very skeptical of this story. This is a very weird one for me, Joe, because I get it that social, and I've seen social media teams make mistakes and do things like this, yes. I think for me, if this happened the day before, then I'd be okay with it. But they posted it as if it was going to happen, not today or not even tomorrow. Like, it was just strange that they were getting ready for a YouTube video days in advance. So for me, Joe, I don't know, man. Look, I don't think there's anything to it. I think they were trying to get ahead of it. But the unfortunate part, and we have to be honest with ourselves here, is that because of the invent of prediction markets on Kalshi and Poly Market, not the betting markets, but the prediction markets, that you don't want to say anything salacious happened, but we've seen so much salacious stuff happening with this sort of stuff that is it possible? And I don't want to intimate this and blame anyone, but the questions that are being asked, let's put it out there, is that could somebody got ahead of the prediction markets here that was involved in this, and you basically got this number way up and got out on LeBron James going to Miami, because we don't know if he is or not. We have no idea. And it's lingering way longer than it should. It's annoying at this point. So all somebody would have had to do was just do a little Fugazi there. Right before the Fugazi, put in that LeBron James, make your investment on Kalshi and Poly Market, and then get out right before. Now, here's the thing, Joe. If that was the case, and let's assume the worst, that is what happened here. That somebody was in on it. Somebody just wanted to move the market in the prediction markets. Wouldn't it be fair to say that person would get caught? Correct or incorrect? Wouldn't they catch that person doing it? Okay. Yeah. So if that is the case, how long would it take to catch that person? Is it now? Is it tomorrow? Is it next week? So whoever did it, if they were involved in that, is pretty stupid, because they're probably going to get caught. So this all takes me back to the beginning of the story, which tells me probably an honest mistake. Can't be that stupid to make that big mistake like that, in my opinion. But I don't know. What is your opinion of it?
I don't understand it. I don't understand it, Craig, because as somebody that has done quite a bit of work with the back ends of social media and YouTube and those types of things, it was my understanding that Miami comes out and says, oh, it was the social media department, because this wasn't some sort of announcement of it. They posted a link to what it was going to be a live feed for the announcement here. And
but next week.
They were for next week. And there's absolutely no reason that you would have to prepare that part of the process.
Yes, I agree with that.
The back end of YouTube that you would need. Oh, week. Man, we got, just in case, we just got to make sure that live link is. No, you can do that an hour before the press conference is getting scheduled. So I am with you, but I'll tell you this. A simple link like that, simple link posted for an hour, and oops, pull it off, was enough to make the markets go through the roof, Craig, to your point.
Right. So my thing is that the date is the reason why I think either something funny was going on there or just a legitimate mistake. Because if LeBron was definitely going to Miami, and Joe, you said it right there, if that was happening, that date would have said tomorrow or the next day. It would have been correct, because then you would say, oh, they're getting ready to do a LeBron James press conference. If it's tomorrow, the 23rd, the 24th. But the fact that it was the 27th, you're 100% right. Who needs to go on to prepare for a next week press conference? Like, that doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. So for me, it's all about knowing. I covered LeBron when he was here for a little bit. It's not like I really got to know him. You put a microphone in somebody's face. It's like saying that I know Michael Jordan because I interviewed him once too. But knowing this, my guess is he's probably enjoying all this. I'm guessing that he likes being the center of this. I got no idea where he's going to go. We talked about it yesterday. I'm rooting for the Heat, of course. That's what I'm rooting for. I'm rooting for the madness back here again in South Florida. But what does my head say? My head says pick somewhere we're not expecting, because he has made choices through the years that none of us expected. Going to the Heat in the first place, leaving the Heat to go back to Cleveland? Okay, great. Leaving Cleveland again to go to LA? Now leaving LA, not to retire, but to go somewhere else? The simplest path is never the path that this guy takes. So put me in for Philadelphia. Put me in for Golden State. Put me in for the Spurs, like some random team out of nowhere that we haven't been hearing about, that we hear that Wemby, wanted LeBron and they had dinner and that's why it got done. It seems like that's the direction this guy always goes.
And there has been a big push with, Clutch Sports and Rich Paul and his people over the last 48 hours to tell everyone, no decision has been made. They're preaching patience, yet Adam Silver and the NBA is saying, we need to release our schedule. We need to release what the primetime games are going to be, who's getting what. And don't think for Adam Silver and the NBA do not want to put out a list here of games and primetime games and a schedule and not have the right team for where LeBron is going to be playing. If LeBron is playing in Miami, there are going to be a number of Miami games that are going to be primetime national games in a heartbeat. But, again, this is the guy that made everyone tune into, what was it, The Decision? Remember that? That was a lot of fun. You were there for that, right? Yeah. So you remember what that was.
I did a live broadcast on the Miami Heat Basketball Network at the time, on 790 The Ticket, which was it still is a radio station here in South Florida, terrestrial radio. And then after the decision was made, I got a call from the program director. His name was Mark Hockman. He now does radio on 560 WQAM here in South Florida. And Mark Hockman told me, tomorrow they're going to do a press conference, but it's going to be an open American Airlines Arena event. They're expecting it to be a sellout. Nobody has to pay for a ticket, but they think 30,000 people are going to come to show up and watch LeBron James, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade. We want you to go live, and we want you to ask Cliff Floyd, who was my partner on the radio, if he wants to go too. It was one of the singular biggest events, Joe, and I've covered them all. It was one of the biggest
Crazy.
events I've ever covered. I've never done a broadcast before where I couldn't hear myself. That was the first time where I'm literally, even with microphones, headsets, and earpieces, couldn't hear myself talk.
Couldn't hear it. Yep, and that was the decision. Now we've got another decision coming up, but is there any chance he comes back to Miami? Well, we're going to have to wait to find out because LeBron's yes, that would be great. The New York Knicks, not going to happen there. Game Time Decisions continues, though, on the grid.
They come in a lot more better prepared to play than, say, we did, having to learn some of the things that we learned coming into the NFL that we weren't learning in college. A lot of these kids are getting quarterback coaches, as far back as junior high school and all the way through high school into college. So I think the position is a lot more stronger than it's ever been.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Atlanta should be the team to step up and secure him.
Yeah, Atlanta's really interesting because they're, much further down the list at only, 8% right now on call sheet. But this is a team that has constantly come up in terms of GMs thinking, or the reports suggesting that GMs are thinking that Atlanta Braves are the dark horse team to kind of swoop in there and get Scoogle. And that's going to be something that, we should pay attention to.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Wembanyama goes to the park and plays chess against people. I saw him come in with a book today. Yeah. He walked in with a book, Kevin. He had a bunch of books in his hand. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, he's the only NBA player that actually walks in with a book that actually read it.
Yeah. It's a good take. It's a good take. Yeah.
Shot of LeBron. Listen, I couldn't help it.
I knew that I was trying to cut you off before you said the name.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network as we've got, a whole lot of Major League Baseball still to be played. Couple of games just ended from the early slate, including the Reds closed out Seattle 5-3. That one is in the books. It is a football game breaking out with Arizona 14-3 over the Athletics. But the big story, of course, the Red Sox going for their 16th straight win. That game is coming up in just about an hour or so. But let's bring in our good friend. I haven't seen him in a while. Good old Nick Hamity here. Tiny Nick, we call him affectionately here on the network, as nobody loves the Twins like he does here. But
no,
I got to ask you here. I got to ask you, though. It's good to see you again, man. We were just talking about the whole, where does LeBron go? Everybody wants to know where LeBron goes. I think LeBron already knows where he's going. I think they've all known. I know the Heat, we posted a link to a live feed for his press conference. But, he's coming to the East. I don't think for a minute he's going to Golden State or anywhere. I think he'd be out of his mind. I don't think he's a great fit for Cleveland. Because I don't think he can play with Donovan Mitchell. I don't think he wants to play with Harden. I think Miami is the right fit for him because he's not going to have to play every night. And they've got enough other pieces going on there. It feels like Miami's the right place, but does that mean, in your opinion, that's where he's going to land?
I think the funniest visual for me is LeBron James playing alongside James Harden. I think there's nothing funnier than that. I think if James Harden wasn't on the Cleveland Cavaliers, I think there'd be a real good chance that he'd go back there. But I don't think these guys get along. They've been in the league for how many years together? I haven't seen much of them, even with the Olympic team and the clips of that. Whenever James Harden is with LeBron doing all-star, activities. That being said, Anthony Edwards was LeBron's number 1 pick in the All-Star game.
Yeah.
It got me excited. I thought there was a chance he might do the Minnesota thing. The problem with that is if you don't win it in Minnesota, it was a huge swing and a miss, and you just added another losing franchise to your jersey, jersey collection. If I was LeBron, I'd go back to Miami. I think it's the best fit for his lifestyle, for what he's trying to do. I think he wants to win a 5th ring, but he also knows if he just joins some team and that's why the Spurs and the Thunder and the Knicks got ruled out so quickly, a team that's already there, that it would kind of destroy his legacy anyways. LeBron's a guy that he's got to go somewhere and he's got to make a team, get over the hump. That's why I think Minnesota would have been the most fun. That being said, I still do think he goes to Cleveland or Miami. If it wasn't for James Harden, it would be Cleveland for sure. It makes the most sense to retire where he started.
So it was funny, too, because I think Miami makes the most sense from a fit perspective with Giannis and company. But your Minnesota Timberwolves, my man, they're going to be a new look team. Are they not? I mean, it's just you shed some of that salary, get rid of some of the dead weight. It's still Anthony Edwards' world. Everyone else is living in it. But what did you think here? And are they still the 4th best team behind Denver in the West, or what are we looking at here?
Yeah, I'm a guy that gets really deep in the trenches with kind of reading about teams and what's happening within the locker room. And it appears with stories coming out that we were onto something last year with understanding that Julius Randle was not a good locker room fit for the Minnesota Timberwolves, especially after they kind of tried to shop him at the trade deadline. He checked out. I don't know how you can check out from shooting a basketball in a game, but somehow he shot under 30% from 3 the second half of the season. It was so bad in Minnesota with Julius Randle that you mentioned kind of getting rid of the dead weight. I hate to say it, but Julius Randle, outside of a couple defensive matchups, was dead weight for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Him being gone is addition by subtraction. LaMelo is a huge wild card. I hope it works out. I think we talked about it last year, and we made jokes about how I didn't want LaMelo at the time. I'm pumped to have LaMelo at this point because whatever we had wasn't working, and the Timberwolves did not have a point guard. That's where you see the LeBron James Band-Aid come into play if he can play the 4 for 1 or 2 years for the Timberwolves to kind of get him over the hump here. But they brought in Trey Lyles. They got a couple other guys. Jaden might play the 4 a little bit. They might use Jalen Clark to play the 4 on defense and just, take up some fouls for his teammates. They've got guys that can get it done. And as we know, they've got 7 or 8 guards. I mean, we've talked about DeSumo, DiVincenzo's coming back, Anthony Edwards. Jaden McDaniels should be more in the 3 spot. This team has a lot of guys. Terrence Shannon Jr. in the playoffs came on. We know how deep they are. I don't know why they, a guy like Josh Green, I don't know where that's going to fit. He's going to have to play the 4 a little bit if they keep him. My thought is the Timberwolves are 1 trade away from being a serious championship contender. Hopefully that happens in the first half of the season. We don't have to wait for the trade deadline. But if it does come up on the trade deadline, 1 or 2 of those 2s are going to be gone and probably attach it to a second round or first round pick 5 years out, because the Timberwolves literally only have 1 first round pick in the next 5 or 6 years.
Well, let's face it, they're probably not the best basketball team in the state of Minnesota. We just watched in the WNBA, we watched the Lynx, and it's amazing with a healthy Nafisa Collier there. I think she dropped 24 and 10. Finally, she's back. But they're 22-6 heading into the All-Star break here in the WNBA. But is it enough to be able to get past the Aces again this year?
I'd be so upset if I was in the WNBA right now that Olivia Miles fell to the Minnesota Lynx. When that happened, right away, it was a disaster. And Olivia Miles is not only on a Rookie of the Year campaign, but on a MVP campaign right now. You add Fee to the mix. I know they started out a little bit slow today. They ended up, I think, almost covering. It was a 10-point spread when I saw it. I think they won by 10, even being up by only 1 with a minute left in that game. I don't know how they did it. But the Lynx are only going to get stronger. They've got Howard now. They've got so many pieces. McBride is the best 3-point shooter I've seen in my entire life, male or female. She doesn't miss. I don't know if you watch the Minnesota Lynx a lot, but she's crazy. If you watch this team, they legitimately. I'd love to slide Fee in at the 4 for the Minnesota Timberwolves if we could. That would probably get them over the finish line here. But I'm actually taking a peek at a couple different teams today. Teams that have a little bit less success than the Minnesota Lynx. I'm looking at the Chicago Sky team total to go over 86 today. Reason being, the Liberty are showing that they are aging. They have a lot of injuries. They're not doing well. They've fallen off. This is not a top 5 team anymore. When you look at the standings, you see that. When you watch them play, you also see that Sabrina's had a lot of off nights as of late. And Chicago put up 95 on them in the first meeting and are averaging 94.7 points per game in their past 10 games. They're playing fast, the most possessions in the WNBA per game on the road. And the Liberty on a 2-10 ATS streak. They're just not playing good basketball, especially on the defensive side. I'm looking at the Chicago Sky team total over 86 today.
Sure. Man, we're out of time. I really wanted to get your thoughts on the Minnesota Twins, but we'll have to do it next time. Nick Amity, enjoy it, brother. Game Time Decisions continues.
They come in a lot more better prepared to play than, say, we did, having to learn some of the things that we learned coming into the NFL that we weren't learning in college. A lot of these kids are getting quarterback coaches, as far back as junior high school and all the way through high school into college. So I think the position is a lot more stronger than it's ever been.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Atlanta should be the team to step up and secure him.
Yeah, Atlanta's really interesting because they're much further down the list at only 8% right now on call sheet. But this is a team that has constantly come up in terms of GMs thinking, or the reports suggesting that GMs are thinking that Atlanta Braves are the dark horse team to kind of swoop in there and get Scoogle, and that's going to be something that we should pay attention to.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Wembanyama goes to the park and plays chess against people. I saw him come in with a book today. Yeah. He walked in with a book, Kevin. He had a bunch of books in his hand. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, he's the only NBA player that actually walks in with a book that actually read it.
Yeah. It's a good take. It's a good take. Yeah.
Shot of LeBron. Listen, I couldn't help it.
I knew that I was trying to cut you off before you said the name.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Craig Mish. As Craig, we got some more baseball coming up here at the top of the hour. We got a few more games that we got to dive into, but 14-3 right now. Diamondbacks cruising in the top of the 8th. 1-0 Cardinals and the Angels in the top of the 9th. We'll see if maybe the Angels can mount a comeback in that one. Well, let's face it, all eyes are going to be on this Boston Red Sox game coming up, game 2 of this doubleheader. You and I have talked about it. We usually like to go the other way after in the second game of a doubleheader, but I don't know. I don't know if I can step in front of this Boston train. I don't care who they throw tonight, really, on the mat. It could be 4 or 5 different guys. They're rolling, and I don't think Baltimore is going to be the team to derail them in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I'm sure the lineups are out. I haven't looked. That would really be the only thing for me is if somebody wasn't playing tonight that I didn't know about for Boston, like if Abreu was sitting out or something like that. Maybe that would change my mind. By the way, Caleb Durbin, who was acquired by Boston in the offseason, and it looked like a horrible trade because they traded Kyle Harrison, did Boston to Milwaukee. Harrison was phenomenal until he got hurt with Milwaukee. It looked like an awful, awful trade for the Red Sox. Now, all of a sudden, this kid Durbin has been going off for Boston at second base, too. And that's been a huge turnaround for him. He was a big piece. The Red Sox were really looking for a second baseman. They thought they got one in their guy of the future. And even Brewers fans were questioning, why would the Brewers trade Durbin? He was so good for them last year. Maybe this works out for both sides in this case, but yes, Cedane Rafaela hit a home run for the Red Sox. He was an all-star. He's been a great player for them. I'm with you, Joe, on the sentiment here. I just think at this point it's dangerous. The Red Sox will play Baltimore tonight. They have a day off Thursday. Friday, Saturday, Sunday against Toronto, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday against the A's with a couple of days baked in. Red Sox may not win them all, Joe, but they have, after today, they have 6 games. I'd be shocked if they didn't win 4 or 5. When we get to that trade deadline, guess who's going to be buying? It's going to be Boston.
Yeah, it certainly is there. Yeah, Siegler, Rafael Abreu, Contreras, Yoshida, Durbin, Duran, Montecero, and Navarro. It's pretty much the same lineup we just saw.
Yes,
Scored 6 runs there in the first one. They should be good to go. And again, the way they have been pitching, both out of the bullpen and their starting rotation has been, I mean, tremendous. There's no reason to step in front of the Red Sox, I think. Let them get the sweep. Let them keep rolling. I think it's good for everybody involved. And then, of course, the Yankees get to sit back and watch all of this unfold. But they do have Max Fried maybe to the rescue here tonight. Bubba Chandler going for the Pirates. That's going to be also game 2 of that doubleheader. And boy, I tell you, they burned Bednar already in game 1. Am I crazy to think maybe runs in this one here, Greg, and over in a warm night in the Bronx? What do we think?
Maybe, but I'm probably more on line of just taking Pittsburgh. That's probably the odds that I would go with. Yeah. I mean, look, I think Fried is generally always good. The Yankees are very well run. They're not going to put Fried in harm's way and put him in a game if he's not ready. They made that decision to do it, so let's not think that. But you do have to be realistic here. That's a good point. Bednar maybe not available in a save situation tonight. I can't imagine Max Fried pitching more than 5 innings in this game. I'd be actually surprised if he did go 5, but let's give him 5. A heavy bullpen game coming for the Yankees today. I think, I think Pittsburgh wins game 1. I think the Yankees come back, probably take game 2. I think I just said Pittsburgh. I misspoke. That's the way that I would go with this. But I do think it's going to be a close game. The other part of this that keeps playing out, Joe, which is really interesting, Milwaukee ends up beating the Mets today. They were led by 2 runs going into the 9th. You really can't bet against Milwaukee, but what you could do is take the team against them plus a 1.5, because they seem to play and win every 1-run game. So you basically could keep betting sort of against Milwaukee by just taking them plus a 1.5. You got to lay some juice usually. But when Milwaukee is at home, I would take the road team plus a 1.5. It's the Mets covered today on that.
I like that too, and for whatever reason, that's exactly the MO for Milwaukee. That's exactly what they do here. I do think, though, the Yankees in a bounce back spot. This could be one of those games where, unlike Boston, who I'm not stepping in front of, I do think Fried could be enough to get the Yankees a little bit motivated. So I'd be looking for them to get it done with you in this spot, especially against Bubba Chandler, who, if he's not walking guys, he's giving up way too much hard contact here. Maybe the bats finally show up again here for the Yankees. We still have more games to go over, though. Atlanta and the Padres getting ready to go at it. Interesting game last night with Atlanta, who's been tremendous at home. We'll talk about it as Game Time Decisions continues here on the Grid.
They come in a lot more better prepared to play than, say, we did, having to learn some of the things that we learned coming into the NFL that we weren't learning in college. A lot of these kids are getting quarterback coaches, as far back as junior high school and all the way through high school into college. So I think the position is a lot more stronger than it's ever been.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Atlanta should be the team to step up and secure him.
Yeah, Atlanta's really interesting because they're, much further down the list at only, 8% right now on call sheet. But this is a team that has constantly come up in terms of GMs thinking, or the reports suggesting that GMs are thinking that Atlanta Braves are the dark horse team to kind of swoop in there and get Scoogle. And that's going to be something that, we should pay attention to.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Wembanyama goes to the park and plays chess against people. I saw him come in with a book today. Yeah. He walked in with a book, Kevin. He had a bunch of books in his hand. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, he's the only NBA player that actually walks in with a book that actually read it.
Yeah. It's a good take. It's a good take. Yeah.
Shot of LeBron. I couldn't help it.
I knew that I was trying to cut you off before you said the name.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network as we're getting ready for quite the slate of baseball games still to come here on this Wednesday. Joe Raineri alongside Craig Mish as we've got the early games just about wrapped up here as the Cardinals and Riley O'Brien looking to close out the Angels 1-0 there in the bottom of the ninth. The Diamondbacks have already put away the Athletics. They're in the bottom of the eighth, 14-3. But I think the Atlanta Braves and the Padres are two very interesting teams right now. And I thought that game yesterday with Walker Buehler on the mound for Padres, I thought he did a pretty good job. A lot of people are automatically fading them because of, Walker Buehler's troubles over the month of July. But he did good yesterday, and the Braves, one of the better teams at home in the National League, and you know this, Craig. Martin Perez, they're rolling off the IL. This is how bad the starting pitching has gotten for the Braves. Like, they're praying for guys to come off the IL just so they can throw them in a spot like this. Michael King, better at Petco than on the road. The Braves have averaged, I think, 5 runs a game at home. 9 of the last 10, they've scored at least 5 or more runs. I don't know. Is King the guy? It feels like a bounce back for the Braves bats in this one. What do you think? And again, what are you going to get from Perez? And you mentioned how good the Padres, some of these hitters, Machado and Ortiz, are the bats finally starting to get it for the Padres here?
Well, last night they came alive. Machado homered twice, and Tatis hit a 470-foot home run. Now, I don't know if that means anything for the future. They've been waiting for that all season long. Machado's been able to hit home runs. He just hasn't been able to hit his weight, basically, this season. He's batting, I think, under 180, or he has been for the majority of the season. I still don't like the Padres, but if you buy the bats stay hot, then maybe an over tonight between these two teams, Atlanta and San Diego. Maybe that's a direction potentially to go for Atlanta. What's interesting is that in that market, some of the scuttle is, and it's not the team scuttle, but it's some of the social media scuttle, is that would the Braves bring back Strider as a bullpen guy? Would the Braves bring him back as a guy that comes in 2-3 days a week and pitches a couple of innings, as opposed to going 5, 6, 7 innings in a game, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. Strider, 2 years ago, you could make the case he was one of, if not the best, very best pitcher in the National League too. And then, of course, the injury last year, we didn't see him. But I'm not really worried about them because the Braves are in it to win it. I know that this time next week or soon after, they're going to end up having 3 new players on their team, Joe. I can take that to the bank. There's going to have a new guy in the rotation.
Yep.
Ronald Acuna is going to be back, and they're going to get right. But look, they're a little vulnerable right now. I think your assessment is right. It's fair to say. I just have to see the Padres a little bit more consistent in order to back them. So I don't know that I would, but maybe playing an over tonight and banking on Manny and Tatis staying hot. Because certainly if those guys start hitting like we know they have, remember, Tatis didn't even hit a home run in April. So if those guys start hitting the way that we know they have, it could get San Diego back in the mix, but I'm not necessarily buying that at this point. But in a 1-game scenario tonight, sure, maybe some runs in store.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Perez, last time we saw him was against the Mets before he hit the IL there. 4 earned runs in that one. He did pitch against the Padres, I believe, back in June 24th. And he didn't, 4 innings, 3 earned, walks 4. which is kind of what you expect with, Martin Perez at this particular point. Left-handed hitting, left-handed pitching has given the Padres some fits here this season, but you got Xander Bogaerts hitting 8th, Greg. That's how bad it has gotten. Yeah. What happened?
That guy in particular, it's a great question. I don't know. $200 million, I think, for him, Joe. And it's like the second he signed the contract, he was really good in Boston. It's not like he was an average player. He was well above average. But look, the Padres gave out hundreds of millions of dollars, Joe, to a lot of guys. And I kind of feel like when you look back now, Joe, does it feel a little bit like the owner who, Peter Seidler passed away? Does it kind of feel like he was doing that, knowing maybe what was coming, to say, hey, let me take my last gasp at this? And unfortunately, he left the bill for a lot of folks that are going to have to pay that off. Padres being sold. So guys like Bogaerts, Machado making $250 million, Tatis making a lot of money. Darvish, I think, is getting. I think he got 100 or 150. I think Darvish gave away his money this year, if I'm not mistaken. I think he said,
I believe he
was done, and he may come back in the future. So they have some key decisions to make here. They have some really big decisions to make. The sense I get, knowing the way the Padres play, Joe, this time next week, they're at least a hold. I don't know that they're a seller. Like, does it really make sense for them to be 3 games out of the wild card and giving up with Tatis and Machado and Mason Miller and some of these other players? Doesn't make sense to me. So I would guess Padres just kind of stand pat.
I will say this: and you've heard it too, Craig. The rumors and everything else around Mason Miller and teams are lining up. If the Padres wanted to go that direction, it's interesting. They went out of their way to go get him. He barely pitches now, Craig, because he never pitches when they're behind. They're almost never playing from in front. They could get quite the haul for Mason Miller here, which is kind of mind-boggling, but I don't see them doing it, though, right?
I don't see it. No, I don't see it. I think Skubal more of a possibility because he's a free agent, but Mason Miller still is under contract, if I'm not mistaken, for at least 2 more seasons. So
there's no reason for them.
The Padres planning on not competing next year, and who knows what the CBA. They may have to shed some payroll if they're way over, but Miller's not one of those guys that's going to make a lot of money through arbitration. What's he going to make? $8 million, $10 million for one season? He's well worth that. He's the best closer in the game. These trades are fun to talk about, and they get clicks online, and shows like ours were just as guilty as anybody else, but I don't see him being moved. But look, anything can happen. Several years ago, I was doing shows here and was asked 1 million times, do you think that Juan Soto would ever get traded from Washington? And I said no, and he got traded to the Padres. So look, I couldn't believe it at the time. That to me was the all-time stunner trade, that Washington would trade him, and they got a great deal back in return. They got a lot of very viable players back from the Padres, and the Padres didn't get nearly as much from the Yankees when they traded him to New York. But I digress. I think San Diego stands pat. They don't get aggressive. They play for this season. How could they possibly give up on the season with being 3 games out? And no offense, I like Pittsburgh and I like Miami. And I like Arizona, and I made that clear. And St. Louis, by the way, too. That's who the Padres have to overcome here at the end of the season. And if I told you on paper that's who they had to overcome, you would say that they would do it. So why would they trade players? Doesn't make sense.
I agree. But it's amazing to me when you think about the quality of closers that have actually changed over the last couple of seasons. Like Mason Miller was already Hader a couple of years ago, Duran from Minnesota, there have been, some legit closers that seem to at this time of year land on, contenders willing to do it and then willing to sign. And usually if you had one, that was it. There wasn't anything you were going to do to be able to pull them away. But the game has changed, I guess, right now, and closers are just as good and just as valuable as anybody else. But, to have Hader and Mason Miller and Dor all within the last couple of seasons is a little odd, no?
Yeah, I think the game has changed in a very big way. You think, let's go 5 years ago. Let's just go back 5 years, Joe. Out of 30 teams in the big leagues, you didn't have to know who they were, but you could go online 5 years ago and say that 20 teams had a closer and 10 would go by committee, right? That's fair. I think 20 teams had a bona fide closer. 15 years ago, 10 years ago, every team had a closer going into the season. Now I would say that 5 years ago, 20. I don't think half the teams in the big leagues this season have a closer, Joe. I think that's virtually half the league is by committee at this point. And
that was a good point.
You know, even a guy like Miller, who is elite in the game with Hader, with Cade Smith, with Aroldis Chapman, even those guys, the fall off, Joe, it's usually quick. And for every Aroldis Chapman, there's who was the guy for Toronto, Romano, wasn't it? Who just like completely fell apart. So
good point.
You never know with this stuff, man.
You do not. The games are changing, but you got us. Game Time Decisions. We'll be back.
They come in a lot more better prepared to play than, say, we did, having to learn some of the things that we learned coming into the NFL that we weren't learning in college. A lot of these kids are getting quarterback coaches, as far back as junior high school and all the way through high school into college. So I think the position is a lot more stronger than it's ever been.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Atlanta should be the team to step up and secure him.
Yeah, Atlanta's really interesting because they're, much further down the list at only, 8% right now on call sheet. But this is a team that has constantly come up in terms of GMs thinking, or the reports suggesting that GMs are thinking that Atlanta Braves are the dark horse team to kind of swoop in there and get Scoogle. And that's going to be something that, we should pay attention to.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Wembanyama goes to the park and plays chess against people. I saw him come in with a book today. Yeah. He walked in with a book, Kevin. He had a bunch of books in his hand. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, he's the only NBA player that actually walks in with a book that actually read it.
Yeah. It's a good take. It's a good take. Yeah.
Shot of LeBron. Listen, I couldn't help it.
I knew that I was trying to cut you off before you said the name.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Oh. All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on this Wednesday on the SportsGrid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Craig Mish as a couple of games getting ready to start here, including the Dodgers and the Phillies. Also, the Twins and the Guardians getting ready to go at it. And Ramirez back for the Guardians, and that should absolutely change the direction of that offense, at least in the foreseeable future. Let's bring in our good friend Mark Zeno here, Craig. It's been a while since we've seen him. Apparently he's part of his own club now, but that's all right. It's always good to see him. In the meantime here, Mark Zeno, we were just talking about the Braves, your Atlanta Braves here tonight. Great at home, but pitching continues to be a head-scratcher, starting pitching here. What are you hearing? I mean, what options do the Braves have to help this starting rotation heading into the trade deadline?
Well, the biggest name they thought they were going to be able to obtain is probably likely no longer available, and that's not Tarek Skubal. It was Sonny Gray, because the Red Sox were supposed to be sellers, and Sonny Gray was going to be available as the best pitcher on that staff. And guess what? Red Sox, including the first game of today's doubleheader, have won 15 in a row. So I don't think he's going anywhere, because I don't think the Red Sox are selling anything at this point in time. The Braves probably need some starting pitching help, because I just don't know if A.J. Smith-Shawver and Spencer Schwellenbach and Spencer Strider are going to be guys who you can count on at this point in time. It just doesn't look like those guys are going to be healthy enough to be anything. The other biggest problem here, Joe, is that, and this is particularly, what's happened in this series against the Padres. The Braves had the worst offense in baseball in the month of June. They scored the fewest runs in the month of June. Coming into last night's game, they scored the most runs in the month of July, and their bats have quieted down this entire series here against the Padres. So I would think that they might be able to break. I mean, last night they faced Walker Buehler and got one hit off of him through 5 innings. Like, it's Walker Buehler. You guys could hit Walker Buehler. So, I mean, Walker Buehler did walk 5 guys, so there were plenty of people on base, but that's not the point. So, look, if their bats start to wake up a little bit here, they're going to be okay. They'll be able to overcome the pitching. But I still think Alex Anthopoulos is probably to make a big move here at the deadline. Just not sure which direction he's going.
He always seems to make a move for a player or 2 or 3, and he did that the World Series here and brought in 3 expiring contracts. They all worked out and all moved on after the year 2. Mark, let's go back to the Red Sox here for a minute. And they've won 15 games in a row. They're going for 16 tonight in that doubleheader against the Baltimore Orioles. And, I guess it's more of a bigger picture question than it is necessarily about the Red Sox, which is why I think most teams outside of a handful, Mark, going into next week are going to be paralyzed, because I think that a lot of front office executives have to be looking at what the Red Sox did and say, if we're only 3 games out, look at them. They won 15 games in a row. How can we possibly punt if we are the Padres or we are the Blue Jays or we are the Orioles? And to me, that is kind of, I think, going to be the story of the trade deadline. I would expect, of course, trades to happen over the next 10 days. But to me, Mark, thinking anything's going to happen this weekend or early next week, I just simply don't think so. It feels like this is the most teams that I can ever recall being in the mix for the postseason.
Well, that's because the American League has been epically bad. I mean, look, this is probably the most mediocre baseball season of my adult life, save the Los Angeles Dodgers. Nobody is any good. Like, I don't even think the Brewers are that good, right? Like, I mean, sorry, Milwaukee fans. Like, I've seen this script before. You win 95 games and you lose in the first round of the playoffs. Like, are we really worried about the Brewers making a deep playoff run? I mean, objectively, nobody in the AL is good. Tampa may be the best team, and they ain't that much better. We know how pathetic the Yankees are. The Red Sox have come out of nowhere. The Orioles are still involved in this thing here as far as the wild card is concerned. And you got, there are only 2 teams that are currently out of the third wild card with a positive run differential. Everybody else has a negative run differential. It's been a bad year across Major League Baseball. Nobody is good. So to your point, Craig, everybody's still in this thing because everybody stinks. So it doesn't take much for you to overcome what is the American League at this point in time. National League's probably a little bit more competent, but still not very deep. I mean, after you get past the Cubs and the Phillies, like in the wild card world, what else are we really talking about here? Like, are you really scared of the Pirates? I mean, the offense is great, but are you really scared of the Pirates, D-backs, Cardinals, or Marlins? I don't think so.
Well, the Yankees should be scared of the Pirates. So the only reason that maybe they're not is they have Max Fried coming back here tonight, which is a good thing if he still remembers how to hit, because what happened? They scored 1 million runs in the first game of the series, get rained out. They scored 3 in the second game here, and now they get Bubba Chandler in the nightcap. What are you expecting from Fried and the Yankees here?
I would play Yankees minus a half run in the first 5, lay about $1.35. It's probably more juice than you want to lay, but Fried is going to give you 4 or 5 solid innings, right? The Yankees bullpen is enough, and even if Fried is on a pitch count and a pitch limit, which he likely will be, right? He might only get to 60 or 70 pitch. He might come out after 4 innings. The Yankees bullpen is good enough to close the door. If they can't hit off Bubba Chandler, speaks volumes about how bad this Yankees offense is. We know it's bad. I mean, it's pretty awful. But for the Yankees, runs come in bunches. That's the way they are. It's either they score 1 or 2, or they score 10 or 11. Like, their positive run differential and the number that they sit at here, Joe, at plus 86, is a huge farce, because they end up beating a bunch of teams 13-3, but they lose a whole lot of games 3-1. And so, their run differential isn't a great indicator for them as far as how competent they really are. But I would lay the half run in the first 5 and get out of Dodge. If the Yankees don't have a lead early, after Max Fried comes out, I don't want to give that Pittsburgh lineup more at-bats to try and score runs.
Marcus, we wrap it up. We got about a minute to go. Are you a conspiracy theorist or just a simple mistake by the Miami Heat social media department? I'm not interested in in what I think or what Joe thinks or what you or anyone else thinks where he's going to go, LeBron. I'm just curious what you thought of what happened in the last 24 hours. You think it was just that simple, or you think there's salaciousness to it? What do you think?
I think it may be as simple as some guy in the social media department thought it would be a funny joke and is no longer employed by the Miami Heat. That would be my guess.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
That's probably the way
my
I go.
guess
Like it was supposed to be a joke, and they sent it, and then somebody saw it and screenshotted it, and they deleted it immediately. You know, and say, "Oh, let's see what happens here."
Probably
that would be my best conspiracy theory as to what really happened.
Yeah, makes sense.
I can tell you in 3, 2, 1, Polymarket and Kalshi have releasing a statement that somebody bet the Miami Heat for exorbitant amounts of money just before that headline hit. Unbelievable. Zin, always a pleasure, man. Thank you for getting out of the club to hang out with us here for a little while. Love the approved background, by the way, as well. More game time decisions coming your way, though, next here on the Grid.
They come in a lot more better prepared to play than say we did, having to learn some of the things that we learned coming into the NFL that we weren't learning in college. A lot of these kids are getting quarterback coaches, you know, as far back as junior high school and all the way through high school into college. So I think the position is a lot more stronger than it's ever been.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Atlanta should be the team to step up and secure him.
Yeah, Atlanta's really interesting because they're, much further down the list at only, 8% right now on Kalshi. But this is a team that has constantly come up in terms of GMs thinking, or the reports suggesting that GMs are thinking that Atlanta Braves are the dark horse team to kind of swoop in there and get Scoogle. And that's going to be something that, we should pay attention to.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Wembanyama goes to the park and plays chess against people. I saw him come in with a book today. Yeah. He walked in with a book, Kevin. He had a bunch of books in his hand. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, he's the only NBA player that actually walks in with a book that actually read it.
Yeah. It's a good take. It's a good take. Yeah.
Shot of LeBron.
Listen,
I couldn't help
I
it.
knew that I was trying to cut you off before you said the name.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
All right, welcome back in as we look to close out this edition of Game Time Decisions with you, Joe Raineri and Craig Mish. As the Twins wasted no time, leadoff home run. They are up 1-0. Ramirez already on base, it looks like. Welcome back to the Guardians in that one there. Phillies and Dodgers, no score. Let's see if we can run through one of these other games that are coming up a little bit later there. I believe White Sox and Rangers. Rangers are the only team above, but they're the only team one game over 500 in the Central.
How are they favored, Joe? How are they favored in Texas?
I don't
tonight?
know.
I don't understand. Makes no sense.
No, and they won 10-0 last night. Was that 10-0? I believe.
Well, I guess the line is about even now. I know Alexander's starting. I believe he's like an opener, so he'll go like 2 innings. But it doesn't matter to me. Like, I'll take Texas tonight. I'll take Texas tonight, though. Texas should be favored in this game tonight, so I like them.
And listen, the one thing Texas has done really well over the last couple of weeks is hit left-handed pitching, and Anthony Kay is a gas can here. What about the Cubs and the Tigers? What we get 13 runs last night at Wrigley. Do we trust either offense to keep the scoring up here tonight?
Yeah, probably a pass for me on this one. The Cubs are like always the team that you look to, but they're so streaky. It's like I feel like 5 days in a row they're scoring 6-7. 5 days in a row they're scoring 1-2. Yeah, probably a pass for me on that one tonight.
Montero, Flaherty, I believe, on the IL as well now. So the bullpen of Detroit has actually been pretty good. If they can keep hitting, it'd be great. Nobody trusts Colin Ray here. Absolutely not. You and I have already talked about Boston getting it done here for Game 16. And just to let folks know, again, 15-game winning streak, going for number 16, which would be a franchise record for them. But you mentioned it earlier, and it bears repeating as the Phillies are up 2-0. Somebody just hit a home run there. What does their schedule look like after this game? Are you telling me that the Boston gets the Athletics and then what, the Blue Jays? Oh, come on.
Yeah, Blue Jays next. I'll throw my glasses on here for the end. Who cares? So Blue Jays next, and then an off day, and then the A's. For 3 games,
wow.
Joe. So heading into the break, Boston's going to be as hot as any team in the big leagues. By the way, as you mentioned, a home run, Alec Boehm homered for Philadelphia. And, that's the problem with Lauer, is he's going to give up some shots to righties. And not a surprise here that Boehm homered to open up the game. So, instantly you feel much better about Philly first 5 than you do about LA.
Yes. Yeah, even the first 5 over, I'm starting to feel much better right now, because I still think Nola is going to give up his fair share of runs. If the schedule is lining up this way, Greg, are we crazy to start diving into maybe Red Sox pennant, Red Sox American League East winners here? Are they good enough to overtake Tampa?
Generally, teams that get super hot in August and July do not go far in the postseason. It's not a precursor for what's going to happen in the playoffs. I don't think so. There's a huge difference, Joe, for getting hot in September at the end of the season than riding that in the postseason. I mean, we're not even in August yet, okay? I know there's still 60 games left in the season, so I'm not going to buy that. Now, could this get the Red Sox into the playoffs? Absolutely. But they are going to be heavily dependent on getting back Crochet and getting a healthy Roman Anthony and making a couple of trades to ride this out. Now, I'm not going to say that the Red Sox are the Marlins. These are 2 different teams, but the Marlins were the very hottest team in baseball in June and July, Joe. And then they lost 8 games in a row. And I'm not saying, by the way, that the Red Sox are going to lose 8 games in a row. But if the Red Sox just played 500 baseball from now to the end of the season, which, by the way, they would have taken that a month ago if I just said, okay, Red Sox, you just play 500. The Red Sox don't make the postseason. They're going to have to still play very well at the end. And I don't know that this is sustainable for anybody. The Cubs won 10 in a row. They lost 10 in a row. Remember the team that got hot last year in September.
Yep.
And the team that did not. Cleveland won 10 in a row. The Tigers lost 8 out of 10. Cleveland ended up making it. Whoever gets hot in September, Joe, that's the team to ride.
Yeah, it's or you worry about teams peaking a little too soon, right?
That's right.
And that was Atlanta early on this year. Did they peak too soon? And can they get it back for another second wave, so to speak? A lot of baseball still to be played here, but get ready. 16 wins. Can they get it done for a franchise record? That game coming up after the top of the hour, of course. We've got more in-game live game day coming your way here. Gabe Morency, Kevin Walsh will be on hand. They'll get you through all of it. Craig and I will be back for a special edition of Game Time Decisions tomorrow, 1 o'clock Eastern Time. A lot of day baseball tomorrow. We have got you covered. Enjoy the games. We'll see you again as in-game live game day straight ahead on the grid.
They come in a lot more better prepared to play than, say, we did, having to learn some of the things that we learned coming into the NFL that we weren't learning in college. A lot of these kids are getting quarterback coaches, as far back as junior high school and all the way through high school into college. So I think the position is a lot more stronger than it's ever been.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Atlanta should be the team to step up and secure him.
Yeah, Atlanta's really interesting because they're, much further down the list at only, 8% right now on call sheet. But this is a team that has constantly come up in terms of GMs thinking, or the reports suggesting that GMs are thinking that Atlanta Braves are the dark horse team to kind of swoop in there and get Skubal. And that's going to be something that, we should pay attention to.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Wembanyama goes to the park and plays chess against people. I saw him come in with a book today. Yeah. He walked in with a book, Kevin. He had a bunch of books in his hand. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, he's the only NBA player that actually walks in with a book that actually read it.
Yeah. It's a good take. It's a good take. Yeah.
Shot of LeBron.
Listen,
I couldn't help
I
it.
knew that I was trying to cut you off before you said the name.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.